Hello, this is Timo from ProductiveSuperdad.com, and today I'm very excited to be talking with a very productive writer, Sean Platt. Now, when you go to Sean's website, thedigitalwriter.net, you are going to realize that he has quite a lot of Amazon Kindle ebooks that he has published, but that's just the scratch of the surface. He has written a lot of fiction material, sales letters, created information products, ebooks, and lots of stuff. And in addition, I think that this is the exciting part of it all. He's a family man. He has two children, and just makes me wonder how he's able to be so productive in such a dynamic family environment. Sean Platt, welcome to this
Thank you.
interview.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a full-time writer, and I guess more than a writer, I'm a publisher, and I handle several different titles. And my specialty is serialized fiction, and we do around 20,000 words each week between my writing partner and I. So yeah, there's a lot to do each week. I mean, these are full books with covers and fully copy edited and line edited. So there's a whole assembly line that we kind of have to go through. And yeah, I need time to write. I need time to be smart about the time that I do have. And so yeah, I am highly productive. I think a lot of it is because I'm a naturally energetic guy.
Sure.
So it's easy for me to find it. It's not like I have to muscle through it. I think it's not that I don't have the energy to work, because I always have the energy to work. It's about crafting a schedule so that I have the most, I can use my time as intelligently as possible because it is so limited.
Sure.
So, I want to make sure that every hour is a smart hour instead of just another hour. And working online, it's so easy for hours just to become more hours,
Yeah.
because, oh yeah, I'll check Twitter, I mean, it's just really easy to let your minutes bleed. And it's not enough to be a writer. I mean, if you just are writing as a hobby, then that's
Hmm.
totally fine. Like,
Hmm.
you can drink your coffee and write your pages and get it out, and that's awesome. But if writing is your business, then you can't afford not to write. And so,
Sure.
and it's not just you can't afford not to write, it's literally the more time you spend writing, the more money you're going to make.
Sure. Sure.
So you really want to learn to write fast. So, like, I'm lucky that I didn't start out writing fiction,
Hmm.
because if I'd started out writing fiction, I probably would be a little more like sing-songy about it. I would
Hmm.
take a longer time, and I just would, because I would think that the language deserved my respect and that I was somehow disrespecting it by rushing through. But
Yeah.
I totally don't feel that way now. Like, I think that I actually am a big disciple of the belief that the faster you write, the better you write, as long as you spend time in the revision.
Yeah.
But that, like, really writing quickly is a way to tap into your, true subconscious, because you're not exercising energy to self-edit as you go. And so you're creating your more natural thoughts and getting closer to your internal rhythm.
Hmm.
And if you do that, it reads better. You just have to know that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and some parts are going to just be awful, but you just have to be willing to, like, go without thinking and then hack as you go through, get rid of the crap, and
Yeah.
then go back in and really spend time to shape. You could be a really fast carpenter, and by eye, I mean, but you have to be willing to really sand it down when you're done.
Yeah.
And as long as you can do that, then I think that writing fast is actually like a virtue and not an impediment to quality work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, yeah, that's what I do each week.
Okay, that's really awesome. Now, do you follow any particular schedule on a daily basis? Do you have a schedule that you set, like, let's say each night or the night before the next day? Do you do any that kind of stuff, or what is your process of
Um,
writing?
I wish I had a more consistent answer, but I change all the time
Hmm.
because I'm always trying to refine it.
Hmm.
And I'm not as efficient as I would be if I did have a consistent schedule.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to have a consistent schedule with what I do, partly because of the family.
Hmm.
Like,
Sure.
Ethan's baseball schedule is not consistent.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it was consistent, then I could be consistent, but it's not. We're in Ohio, and it rained approximately 32,000 times in the last like month. And so there were all these cancellations, and like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna still go to as many as I can. Now sometimes it's not possible because there's something I can't move,
Hmm.
but if it's just moving my writing hours around, I move them. You know,
Yeah.
there's things like this interview. You know, I'll agree to something like this, but it does impact the writing schedule, and
Yeah.
I have to move those pieces around.
Hmm.
So ideally, yes, I would have a more consistent schedule, but because I've always had to be pliable, I haven't really settled on what that schedule is.
Yeah.
However, let's see, in 2 days, it'll be a month straight, which is cool. This is the longest I've ever done this. I've tracked my hours every day.
Oh. Oh.
So like I'm actually paying attention to the left side a little bit better this week,
Yeah.
but I'm tracking it so that I know what hours I wrote for the length of time, what my environment was like, how many hours I managed during that time.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point it's just a formula. And as long as I can continue to refine that formula and increase my daily word count, then I'm going to be in a great place, because at this point my word count is directly tied to the amount of money I can make. And
Yeah.
the amount of money I make is directly tied to the amount of freedom I have. So yeah, I'm willing to work like 70, 80 hours a week right now, but it's
Oh.
because I don't want to work 70 or 80 hours a week. Like I love working, so 40 would be great. But I figure if I have to put in twice that for 5 years, totally worth it to me.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, and something that I have, forced to do is that because of having a day job, and then having some other hobbies, like I'm an athlete, I'm a marathoner and a triathlete, so I have lots of stuff going on, and then I have the family life as well. So I'm forced to find those quiet moments when I'm able
Yeah.
to write, and most likely it's going to be before I'm heading to the office. So the morning time is my writing time mostly. But
Writing in the morning is great. Like,
yeah.
and I've been paying attention to my habits more too. Like I noticed that later in the day, I feel like really creative,
Hmm.
but I don't actually want to write. I just kind of want to make lists and
Yeah.
like circles on paper and like stare. And I feel like things are moving around, but I don't really want to capture ideas linear,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all writing is. It's just being highly articulate in sequential order.
Hmm.
So I don't really I feel more creative in an abstract way
Yeah.
than trying to do linear thinking. So I don't know. I feel like paying attention to when you write best is great. Right now, what I'm doing is writing in 90-minute bursts.
Yeah.
I feel like that works. I try to get like 5 or 6 in it a day. That'd be great. I settle for 4.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to punch walls and be happy with 2.
Hmm.
But it's like 90 minutes, just furious, as many words as I can vomit out in that time, and then I come back to another 90 minutes later where I actually love on those words instead of just hammer at them as quickly as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you already mentioned a little bit about habits, but do you think that there are any particular powerful productivity habits that you would recommend for writers to adopt in his or her
oh
daily work?
yeah, man, I got a million of those. Uh, yeah,
Just pick some.
yeah. Okay, consistency, which I just said I'm not consistent.
Hmm.
Consistency is like every time I am consistent, I crush it.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm not consistent really just means I'm an idiot, because I've seen it work like every time. It's like 100%. When I am consistent, I have better results. So
Yeah.
write at the same time each day. Like that makes a big difference. Eat well. Don't put garbage in your body, because you're going to slow your brain, and you're sitting in the same place. Like get up. Like one thing that I'll do, and like right on the other side of my door is the treadmill. And I'll just stop what I'm doing after writing for 90 minutes, and I'll just run furiously fast for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll slow down and walk. But I'm just because you need to change your state.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to hit like total inertia, and you don't want that to happen. You need to keep yourself going. And what I've noticed, it's really easy for writers to just like get in the sink. So you'll start out slow, right? Like running is the same way. It's always the first mile that's the hardest.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to run. It's terrible. But there's not that much difference between 4 miles and 7 miles.
Yeah.
Like if you can hit 4 miles, then you're already going. You've already, like, your body is conditioned already. If you can go 4 miles without it being much of a problem, you can go to 7. And so I think writing is the same. But a lot of people, or a lot of writers, we get in that rhythm where, we'll start out slow and the first maybe 500 words take an hour. And then we go a little faster. In that second hour, maybe we can hit 1,000. And then after that, it's like 100 words an hour. We're just like sitting there like monkeys, just like banging out a paragraph every 10 minutes. Being okay with that.
Yeah.
And I can't be okay with that because, like the business that I've set up means we have readers waiting every Tuesday. And if I drop the ball on that, I've got nothing. Like I've got nothing. Like I've basically taught the readers that I won't keep my part of the deal. And
Sure.
if I don't keep my part of the deal, I can't really expect them to keep their part. Like I want them to show up for the story every week. If I don't deliver it, that I don't deserve them. So I've got to balance all of that. So yeah, anyway, I think that consistency is really, really important. Observing your own habits is really important. Changing your state is really important. Eliminate distractions. If you know that you check email every 10 minutes, like I do, then turn email off. You know what? I actually have an old laptop. I haven't done this in a while, actually, because I gave this to my daughter for her birthday, my first laptop. But I used to use that old laptop because I had everything disabled on it.
Yeah.
All I had open was a word processor.
Yeah.
So I would just take that and, like, literally all it had was Pages. I'd open up Pages and I'd type, and then I'd stick it in the Dropbox that I shared on the computer. And that was it. Like, it had one function, and that was to type.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm a weak man, and, I want to check email. Like, I just do. I want to know what's happening in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, did any new reviews come in? Like, I like that stuff. It's a way to write, and as much as I love writing, sometimes it feels like work, and when it feels like work, I want to go play. And so, it's, and if I'm writing, that's just how humans are wired. If I'm writing something that even if I'm writing, if it's something that I don't really want to write that second, I'm thinking about all the things I'd rather write or rather be doing.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned something very important, and something that I have also realized. The physical activity, it's a really funny thing when you think of it. Like many times when I'm standing up and taking a walk, so all of a sudden I think that my brain keeps processing all this stuff inside my head, and all of a sudden I have a list of new ideas I want to write about, and that's really the greatest thing. So that most of my ideas are created somewhere else than sitting in the front of the computer. So that's a great point.
That's a great piece of advice, which is never sit down without knowing what to write.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes, and one thing that I do, yes, here, good, thank you. This is a great tip. Okay. If I'm going to sit and I need to write 2,000 words in an hour, and I just know I have to get it done no matter what, I'm not going to make it up sentence by sentence, because there's no way I'm going to hit. I mean, it's just simple math. Yep. To hit 2,000 words, you need to be typing pretty consistently at around 50 words a minute. Like, so if you slow down to think for 5 minutes at a time, you'll never come close.
Yeah.
So if I have 2,000 words to write, I may write like 100-word summary of what I need to write. And I'll even write that longhand, just because it somehow, I feel like it imprints it a little deeper, where I need it, like, right at my disposal for the next hour. So I'll write like a short summary of what I need to cover, and then I can keep referring back to that. But then I can keep going, because, if it's like a 10-sentence paragraph, then basically I spend 100 words per sentence, and there, well, no, I would need 200 words per sentence, but basically
Hmm.
that's the formula. I write something short and then respond to that. Ask yourself questions too. That's really, really, really helpful. If you sit down and you're supposed to describe something, you may spend a long time thinking about the description, and you're actually not even thinking about how to describe it. You're thinking about how to describe it well. But that's not really like a good use of your time, because if your friend asks you to describe the same thing,
Yeah.
you would just rattle off an explanation.
Hmm.
You wouldn't spend time thinking about it. You would just
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
So you need to have that same kind of fluidity in your writing, because again, it's not about being pretty, because you can always make it sound prettier later. It's about how well can you articulate yourself. And you don't want to think in terms of beauty or polish. That's for later.
Hmm.
Because sometimes the most articulate way is the most beautiful way. And you don't want to miss out on that
Hmm.
either, because that is a truth. So when you're outlining what you want to say, you could actually turn it into questions. So instead of, describe this, make 5 questions. What does it look like? What is it for? And then as you're writing it out, you're actually responding to that question, which makes it interesting for the reader and fast. So anyhow, yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. Uh, Now, let's talk about the family environment, and I think that we both know that there are certain challenges when it comes to working from home, and especially if you are trying to focus on writing, and writing is a very creative thing, and at least in my situation, I need to have this complete almost silence in order to create something new. But what type of advice would you share with the rest of the writers who are working in a family environment? How do you deal with the distraction? What type of
Well,
advice do you have?
for me, I'm fortunate. I mean, I do work from home,
Hmm.
so you know, I do have the distraction, but both my children, actually today is the first official day of summer.
Oh,
So we have like, the distractions will be high for the next couple of months.
okay.
But during the school year, I have their entire school day where, I mean, my wife is here, but
Hmm.
we get along great, and like that's not a distraction at
Yeah.
all. So
Yeah.
so I can write in relative quiet during the day.
Yeah.
At nighttime, I don't really care about the distractions so much, because like I don't want to be holed away. Like I I've kind of been in isolation all day, so I'm happy to try and write or answer email or do whatever. I'll sit in the living room with my laptop on my lap and just like work while they're around, so I can kind of feel them even though I'm not with them. Um, and that's nice. So um, and I'm fortunate because Cindy, like, she really does work our schedules so that I'm protected as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like right now, like I'm safe down here. They're away. She's making sure that they're away so that
Yeah.
I hear loud banging outside, and
Hmm.
I am very fortunate for that. But I would say that I can imagine it's a problem in like pretty much every. And you know what? Just to back up for a second, yeah, I mean my kids totally get on my nerves sometimes because they just do. Like they're wonderful people and they're hysterical and they're funny and they're smart, but
Yeah.
like all people who are funny and hysterical and smart, they're annoying sometimes and they don't respect you. And like, I love them for that, but
Yeah.
that does make it hard to write. So I'm always going into the situation knowing I'm going to get less done, because I don't think it's fair to them to be upset with them for me getting less done when I'm going into the situation knowing ahead of time that I'm going to get less done because they're noisy. They're kids. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like kids are to be seen, not heard. Like that's just not me as a dad. Like I want them to be loud and like
Yeah.
themselves.
Sure.
So I just have to know ahead of time. And if there's like a real deadline that I'm facing, then I'm just really like clear with Cindy and I'll say, look, I need to get this done. So I have to like disappear. And she'll say, okay, I got it. And then that's it. But I would say in households where like the variables are different, then just it goes back to consistency. You need a space that's yours.
Yeah.
So you need, even if it's just a corner of the house, like, I mean, a 1-bedroom apartment can have a corner,
Hmm.
but you need a corner that belongs to you. That's your space because you're training your brain that in that space you're creative, and then build the consistency that that's where your time is. So look, if you get up at 5:30 and you write every day 5:30 to 6:30 and nobody bothers dad during that time, that's fair. Like, I'm in
Yeah.
my space at my scheduled time. You guys are not allowed to bother me. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that it's uh, many times it's like, you have to set the boundaries, and
yeah.
part of it is really having an open communication, open dialogue with the rest of the family members, that they need to know what you are actually doing, and so that everyone is on the same line, and that there aren't any false expectations of why you are working or why you are spending time on your computer. So having this open communications makes sure that everyone knows what you're doing, and why you shouldn't be interrupted during that time. So I think
Yeah,
that.
I love that. Like, I'm really clear with my children about the business and about
Yeah.
writing, and like I always I go to long ways to include them both
Hmm.
in the creative part. Like, I'll talk about things that I'm working on as well
Yeah.
as the business. I'll talk about reviews that are coming in, or we made it to Yesterday's Gone season 1 was one of the 100 best reviewed books on Amazon,
Hmm.
and I was so proud of that. And like, I wanted,
Yeah.
like, my children, their favorite, one of their favorite books is The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan.
Yeah.
And Yesterday's Gone was 3 spots above his book, and I felt
Oh,
like the coolest
awesome.
dad ever. Like, I just, like, I walked a little taller, like my kids. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I try to include them in all of that, because I want them to feel like, I don't want them to resent the computer on my lap. I want them to understand that it is
Yeah.
creating a life for us that I couldn't create for us otherwise. And,
Yeah.
I want them to respect it, and I want them to, and they do. I mean, my daughter, like, writes in her spare time. Like, she loves it. Like, she'll be a writer someday. And
Yeah.
I love that. So, I mean, not that she has to, she can do anything, but I think it's cool that she's, understanding that she can create anything. She just has to articulate it well. So anyhow, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk another productivity area. Let's talk about outsourcing. What types of tasks do you outsource, or any writing related tasks? Do you outsource any of that kind of stuff, or what's your way of doing
I am
things?
a huge, huge, huge believer in outsourcing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that no matter what your business is, you need to spend like 90% of it doing whatever it is you're best at.
Yeah.
And I think one of the curses of being an entrepreneur is that we tend to want to do everything ourselves because we like the process, and we tend to be not great at everything, but kind of good at a lot of things. And so because we're good, we make the mistake of thinking that means we should do it, when really we shouldn't. Like,
Hmm.
writers shouldn't be building their own websites. It's
Yeah.
like, it just, and they do, and they do. They don't want to spend the money on it, but they're making the mistake that time is not just time. Not, time isn't just money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money.
Yeah.
I will always be able to make more dollars, always,
Yeah.
but I will never ever be able to make another second ever. Like, I was not given that ability. So
Hmm.
I acknowledge that, and I treat my time as more important than my money. And that means I want to do the things that I'm best at. So yeah, I mean, everything from accounting to like cover design, editing, absolutely. And editing's not even a case of outsourcing. You can't edit your own work. Like,
Yeah.
you can't. If you think you can, you're wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. It, no matter how good you are, like, every single writer needs an editor. You need somebody that didn't write the material to objectively look at it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
uh, so that's not even outsourcing. That's just something that's unnecessary. But um, I, I'm blurring the lines of outsourcing here a little bit, because my partner at Creative Ink or Collective Inkwell, David Wright, does a lot of these things
Hmm.
for us, like the covers, where the work that I do at Sterling and Stone, we have to get those covers outsourced. But
Yeah.
across that spectrum, I outsource covers, editing, formatting, um, even writing, really every single element of it. Even with fiction, I'm trying a production model right now because I can find that I can write maybe 4 hours a day,
Yeah.
but I can also edit another 4 hours a day or rewrite 4 hours a day, which is a totally different skill. So if I'm
Yeah.
writing, that means I have to make something up. If I'm rewriting, it means I have to make something better,
Hmm.
totally different. Even if I'm rewriting, because I'll order rough drafts from writers and I'll rewrite like pretty much 100% of it. Like every single line is physically rewritten. But that it requires a different energy than pure writing. And so I by outsourcing, I can double what I can create without doubling what I could write because I can't double what I write. I've hit a wall how much I can physically write,
Hmm.
but I can rewrite. And it's the same if it was opposite. If I was only rewriting, then I would just start writing my own stuff because it uses a different part of the brain. So now I get to basically take care of twice as many series that I could otherwise. So yeah, I highly believe in outsourcing. I think you have to be smart about how you do it because it's also really easy to just be stupid with your money.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
you have to be smart. You have to know what product you're building. If like I'm working on a couple of series right now in addition to the ones that I'm doing with David,
Hmm.
and I have to know my bottom line on those. I have to know how much I'm spending on all my rough drafts, how much I'm going to spend on editing it, how much of my own time, because this is what started this whole idea of, well, I could double my creative output because Dave was asking me why I had any interest whatsoever um, in doing the rewriting thing because they I'm actually a faster writer than I am a rewriter.
Hmm.
So these rough drafts that I was rewriting were actually taking me longer than if I had just written the story from scratch.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't understand. I'm so conscious about how he spends his time. That seems kind of dumb
Yeah.
because you're spending more time and money because you're actually paying for rough drafts. So like, I know because you don't understand. I couldn't write this story and the other one.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't. So it's not like I even if I could write it, I couldn't write it that fast and the other thing. So really, I'm just adding another project to the plate, not any more time. And so, oh, okay. So, but having said that, I have to know how much time I'm going to spend. If
Hmm.
this is going to be 350 hours, I have to know that.
Yeah.
I have to know, how much it's going to cost me to get covers and format and layout and edit and all of that because whatever book you're writing, that's your product. You have to know how much your product costs because
Yeah.
when you price it out, you have to. And writers in general, we're not that good at that stuff until we learn because we get burned. Like
Hmm.
that's when we, you know,
Yeah.
and and so you have to really know if you're spending 500 hours on a project, don't price it 99 cents and expect that you're going to money back on it because you're not, right? So not unless it's part of a funnel or you have some other follow-up product or
Yeah.
something. But you really have to be smart about how you spend your time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And outsourcing, but yes, outsource everything starting with your website.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I think that times have changed a little bit, and people are more willing to outsource. Like, I think that what used to be the case was that outsourcing meant pretty much like that you had to hire a full-time virtual assistant, but it doesn't have to be that way, and you can start out very small. Like, there are these sites like Fiverr or Amazon Mechanical Turk or places like that, which are very, very inexpensive, and $5 is really nothing. I mean, you can get lots of stuff done with $5, and I think that times have changed a bit. What they used to be like years ago. So you can definitely get started with outsourcing with very, very, very inexpensively.
Yeah,
So
Fiverr is a perfect example. I found my last editor on Fiverr
yeah,
um, because what I did is I took a piece that I needed edited, and they were charging $2 for 5,000 words
yeah,
was the price for the edit. And I'm like, okay. So I took a 2,000 word document and I gave it to 10 different editors. And for $50, I knew who was the best editor.
yeah,
And like, okay, well then, like you don't need to be on Fiverr. Like I can give you steady editing work. Okay.
Yeah.
And it is true. Like that's an inexpensive labor pool
Mm.
where you can pay somebody more than they would make on Fiverr and they'll be really, really happy, yet it's still a good deal for you.
Yeah.
And like you're right. Fiverr is a great source. And Mechanical Turk, if you have a very specific, like repetitive task, is perfect for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Now let's talk a little bit about writing. Do you think that there is a certain area that you should be focusing on if you want to improve your writing? What would you say about that?
Just keep doing it like over and over. I think it's repetition. I think
Yeah.
that it's repetition and it's observation. So constantly write, but constantly think about what you're writing. And I don't mean like get lost in your world, because no one likes that guy. Hey, so don't do that. You want to write, and then you want to go out into the world and think about how you wrote applies to the world and how what you're seeing applies to what you're going to write tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because and like you said, your best thoughts, they come when you're running or when you're walking or when you're in the shower or when you're cooking or when you're tucking your kid in. Like, you're going to get these thoughts. So just start thinking differently. When you're reading, notice language. When you're in conversation, notice language. When you're in a room, listen.
Yeah.
Because a great writer does not turn their brain off. Like,
Yeah.
a great writer is always thinking. And so if that's not native to you now, then teach yourself, because that is a learned skill. You can't teach yourself to always be thinking and critically just thinking about what you wrote and what you're going to write and how it relates, and watch movies differently. Pay attention to story structure. Pay attention to, try to guess what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Basically pay attention, because if you're watching a movie, nothing's an accident. Like,
Yeah.
nothing. Those are even terrible scripts are on purpose. They have rhyme and reason to them. There's a mathematical equation to it.
Yeah.
This happens, then this happens, then this happens. And you may be able to tell a better story than that movie that you're watching, but pay attention to the way it's put together, because you could learn something from that. I've been I'm watching almost nothing these days but serialized television, because that's what I do for a living, is write serials. So like, I want to be the best. Like, I want to know inside and out. So like, there's not a serialized television show I don't want to watch. Like, I don't have time for all of them, but I get through them one at a time. And guy, but I'm watching movies less than I used to, because it's less like, I want to be entertained, and I love serialized television anyway, so it's a win-win. I do miss watching movies as much as I used to, but I like the format, and I think it helps me write better stories when I'm writing during the week.
Okay, that was really excellent advice. Sean, it has been a pleasure talking with you. I have learned quite a bit about writing and yet another ideas for improving my productivity. So it has been a fun to chat with you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
My
sure.
pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Talk to
Bye.
you soon. Yeah. Bye bye.